Good evening and welcome to What's Your Story? What images come to mind when you hear the word witch? Are they good images or are they bad images? What do you really know about witchcraft and witches? Do you have an open mind? Are you willing to learn? My guest tonight is Phoenix Moon. She identifies herself as a witch. She openly practices witchcraft. She drove herself, nope, she didn't come in on a broom. She drove herself here to share her story with us. Sit back, listen, and learn. Welcome to the show, Phoenix.
Thank you.
You know, I've been looking forward to this show for quite a while. As you know, I interviewed you at your place there, and subsequently, I tried to do some research on witches and witchcraft, and I had the stereotypical view that many people do, that it's something horrible and something mean and something anti-Christian and something to be eschewed, and you don't mess around with those people, and all of the negative things that were inculcated in you as you just walked through life, through the world. And I'm hoping that tonight, when these, by the way, this is a two-part episode. This is part one. I'm hoping that by the time we're finished tonight, that people who watch this will have their minds and their hearts open and learn and understand, because I think ignorance is a very destructive thing and knowledge is healing. So that's why I'm so happy you had the courage to come forward tonight and talk with us about witchcraft and the various aspects of that. So I'm so very glad you took that opportunity. So why don't we just back up a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself, like where were you born? Do you have siblings? Where did you attend high school and things like that? Okay,
well, I was born in Watertown, Connecticut. I was the youngest of 5 children. I have an oldest sister. Oh, well, actually, I have 2 older sisters, 2 older brothers. It went sister, brother, brother, sister. So, okay. For my freshman year, went to Watertown High, but then moved over to Caner Tech for the remainder and graduated from Caner. And then, well, later on in life, I went back to school and got a degree at Tungus and then at Central.
What's your degree in at Central?
I have a bachelor's in accounting with a minor in criminal justice.
Why that kind of minor? Was there something you were intending to do with that?
I always loved playing with numbers, and I went for accounting, but I wanted to get more into fraud accounting. So I felt that criminal justice would benefit the fraud accounting portion. Oh, man. So what was your high school mascot, by the way? A Black Panther. A Black Panther. It seems appropriate, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Now, I understand you've been married for 24 years. Correct. And you have 4 children. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about your spouse and your children, their religions, and so forth. Okay. Well, my husband, he actually just over the last few years retired from being an EMT. So he worked in the medical field. And then he is actually basically, he's into the Norse religion, Viking religion. And he didn't come into that until after I started with the witchcraft, or being open with it, I should say. And that's when he kind of opened his mind up and became into the Norse tradition. I have the 4 children. My oldest is a girl, and she is actually into the Buddhist tradition, and she's 26 actually, and so she kind of follows that. Her fiance is basically does more towards Hinduism, and then my second daughter, she's 22, and she actually it doesn't really have a religion. She's kind of still open. She doesn't really have anything set where she follows. Then my third daughter, she is 21. She's actually a Buddhist as well. And her boyfriend or fiance is into Satanism. And then my son, who's the youngest at 18, he is the only one that actually is Christian. That was his choice. He does look into some of the Norse traditions and different things of that nature, but he actually, when you ask him, he'll tell you he's Christian.
What is Satanism?
Satanist is a person who
Excuse me.
they themselves believe they are their own God. They don't believe in a God. They don't believe in devil. They don't believe in any of that. They just believe that they are in control of their own destiny.
So it's a self-sufficient sort of thing?
Right. They believe they're the ones that are going to make anything happen. They're the ones that control what is going to be their future, their life, and everything.
So they are the masters of their destiny.
Correct.
So that's what Satanism means to him.
Right.
Okay. But you can understand how the word Satan would make people think that you're worshiping Satan. Does that make sense?
Correct. There are other forms that do go further in and do some other evil aspects of it, but for the majority of them, they don't. But as in any religion, you're going to have people that do good and bad. So
Yes.
it will happen anywheres.
Now, Phoenix, you chose Phoenix for your name.
Correct.
And you spelled it very differently.
Right.
So tell us about that.
Phoenix is actually because I have had so many trials and tribulations in my life, and every time something's knocked me down, I've come back stronger. And the phoenix is someone who, or is a bird that has, basically, it goes up in flames and is reborn again out of its own ashes. So it gets stronger each lifetime. And so I came with that. The moon portion is because I was born in the middle of the night, so close to midnight, actually. They are not sure which day. So they had to let my mom pick a day for me for legal paperwork, but they're not sure which day I'm actually born on. So Phoenix Moon put together seemed just a natural way to go. The only thing is I do spell Phoenix differently because I'm unique. I don't want to be like anyone else. I am not like anyone else. So why should my name be normal?
No, I like that. I like that very much. Now, what religion were you raised as in your family home?
I was raised Christian, Roman Catholic.
Oh, Roman Catholic.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was very, every Sunday church for the most part. There was some times where my mom would get into streaks where we didn't go every Sunday, but for the most part we did. I was in the catechism program, went into the youth program when I was in high school, did a lot of volunteer work, was part of the Columbiettes, which is an adult version of, female version of the Knights of Columbus. And so I was very heavily into it because that was the thing to do. Everyone, in the area was Christian. You all took and went to church. You had to kind of follow along with what everyone else was doing. So that's what I followed along like everyone.
Now, you describe yourself as a practicing witch.
Correct.
Would you please tell our viewing audience what that entails?
Okay. A practicing witch is someone who I do rituals. I worship my goddess and my god. I will take in every day light candles for the goddess. Then I also will do incense as well for the god. I just take and thank them every day for everything they have given me. My church is my home, outside, wherever I happen to be. You do not need a building to take and worship. It's just wherever you happen to be. Then at full moon, I do rituals. And then at the Sabbats, which is our holidays, I will do rituals. And that is, half of it. That's the religious portion. Then there's the spell portion where I actually will do spells. I help people. I'm a healing witch. So I do a lot of that type of work. However, there are other spells that I have done and I continue to do to help people. So depending on what needs to be done is the type of spell work I get into.
Now, you mentioned you have a god and a goddess.
Correct.
So is it wrong to say you're polytheistic instead of monotheistic?
The way it is we believe that the goddess is all around us, is made up of everything. We believe that it's one being but split into two.
Okay.
It's just that there's many versions. Some people will believe it's all just one. Some will believe it's just a female. Some will believe it's just a male. Most witches will believe it's a female, and that we believe that the mother goddess gave birth to everything. And so the god is actually part of her. It's just she splits herself into two, where she's made up of the spiritual, the ethereal, everything that you can't touch is basically what makes up the goddess. And then the god is more of the tangible things, like the earth, the, wildlife, the plant life, all that is what the god makes up.
So are you, because of your God who's tangible, are you lovers of the earth, or as some people say, tree huggers in that sense? Or
Yes. That's part of it, everything is we worship the earth. We take and honor it. We try to protect the earth. We do a lot of nurturing to the earth.
Now, you said you were in the closet until fairly recently. You didn't come out with your religious preference or your practice for various reasons. Right. When I spoke with you previously, you said that people have thrown holy water at you, right, have grabbed their children to move their children away from you, and various other things. Right. What made you decide to come out, and how do you handle people who react to you like that? I mean, that must be completely shocking to have people behave that way.
Honestly, it's not so much shocking anymore. It's something that happens so often that it becomes kind of the norm. You don't really do anything with it. It's just you go with, if that's what people want to do, you let them, because that's their beliefs, that's their choice. I came out because there was no reason. Why should I hide what I am? Why should I hide what I believe in? Just because it's not the normal, it shouldn't matter. If it's what I believe in, it's my choice. Why should I let others make my choices for me?
What do you do when people throw holy water at you? I mean, how do you maintain your sense of decorum or your sense of balance when you look at these people and they're doing that kind of thing? What do you do?
It's basically, I just, go back into myself and just remind myself it's their ignorance. They're not knowing what is, and that's the problem. They don't understand what a witch actually is. They don't understand what paganism is. They just don't understand. And so I try to explain to those that I can get them open-minded enough to sit and listen. But a lot of times there are some that are so closed-minded they won't even, give you the chance to explain. I've actually had some that have, after I've talked with them, they've opened up enough where they're not afraid to the point where they cross the street.
You've had people actually do that?
Yeah, I own a store, and they will actually cross the street and walk on the other side of the street just so they don't have to walk in front of my store.
For fear of walking in front of your store would do what to them? What's the fear there, do you know?
They were afraid that it was just that evil, that something might happen to them.
That it's a source of evil.
Correct.
And that it's to be avoided at all costs.
Right, and I did get them to the point where we had an event in Plainville where all the people came out. It was a children's event. And as everybody was walking around, I was outside. I had a tent in front of my store so I could, hand out candy, because it was during Halloween time.
Yes, yes.
And I was handing out candy to the kids, and the lady happened to be walking by, and I struck up a conversation with her. And she was one of the ones that actually walked across the street. And I sat and talked with her for an hour and explained what it was, and we compared back and forth. And after the hour's time, she still wasn't comfortable to walk in the store, but she was comfortable enough where she doesn't cross the street anymore.
Wow. So please tell us, from your perspective, what is paganism? What is that?
Paganism is basically, it's just, it's a religion based on, handed down beliefs. It's not something that's written in a book. It's not something that you follow that anyone else. Everyone has their own.
You mean it's word of mouth?
It's word of mouth, and it's also what your soul feels, what you feel it needs to be. There are books written, but it's not something you follow word for word. It's what you are called to do. Everyone has a different version of it, and even if you're in the same belief systems, because you have like Druids that believe in one thing, you have the Norse that believe in another, you have, and even in regular witchcraft, you have the traditional witches, and then you have Wiccans, which is something that is of a newer belief. So even though we're grouped together, there's different versions of it, and everyone still has, even in those groupings, it's divided into, each person has their own way of doing everything. Everyone worships a different way. Some will do it inside only, some will do it outside only. Some have certain rituals that they will perform, such as lighting the candles. Others won't even light candles because they just don't believe in necessarily that is part of their rituals. They might do incense. They might just do prayers. There's all different ways of doing everything.
So tell me what you believe about the soul. Do witches have souls?
We believe that we all have a soul, which is part of the goddess. The goddess, basically, we believe she separated herself into all of the souls, and the souls are here on earth to live, to learn. And then as we learn, we bring back, after we go through all of our lifetimes, we bring that soul back to the goddess so that she can experience everything. It's one of those things of, we believe in reincarnation, where we live lifetime after lifetime. And we carry with us all of that learning. We might not remember it each lifetime, but as we do stuff, we'll get a lot of feeling of that deja vu, that we've done this before, or we've had this before. And it's because in another lifetime, we were probably doing that same thing, learning that same item, or, in this lifetime, working on cars came natural to me. Well, it could have been in another lifetime. I could have been a male years ago working on cars, or even a female, lifetimes ago working on cars. It's all different. But things come natural because it's almost like I just know how to do it without even trying. I know how to do plumbing. I know how to do electrical. I've never been trained, but I just know how to do it. So it's just that soul bringing it forward each lifetime.
At what point did you embrace reincarnation?
It's something that I just felt that has always been there. I might not have vocalized it, but it's just something that I felt that it's always there. We always talk about, we feel spirits around us. We'll talk about how one person, their traits, their looks are just like someone else that had passed years ago. Well, how do we know it's not just that person reliving themselves? So it's just something everyone's talked about it. Some believe in it, some don't, but it's just always been there.
Are there male witches, or are they warlocks?
No, males are witches as well. Warlocks, actually, if you look up the actual definition, it's more like warlock stands for little deceiver, or in things of that nature. Actually, that's my dog's name, is Warlock. So, but no, males would also be considered witches. So there's not. Witch is just a term. It's not male or female. It's just,
it's gender neutral.
Yes.
Okay. Now, would I be surprised at the number of people I may encounter who are actually witches and I don't know it? Would I be surprised?
Oh, definitely.
Well, tell me about that. How do you?
There are a lot of people that are witches that do not talk about it. They hide it. They're in the closet. They're so afraid of what people will say, what people will do, that they don't voice it. I have people that will call me up and ask if I will ship stuff to them because they're afraid to even come out and be seen going into my store because of what others will say to them.
You mean fear of prosecution or persecution, excuse me?
Yes.
Fear of being put down, being made fun of, and just plain old-fashioned ignorance because people are thinking they're practicing evil.
Right, and then even if you go down south further where the Bible Belt is, they will actually commit violence against people that come out as witches.
You know, I hadn't thought about that until you mentioned the Bible Belt, and I suppose you're absolutely correct. I would think that there would be, and I may be absolutely wrong, so I'm going to say that for my viewing audience as well, but there may be more tolerance, but certainly one doesn't think that in the Bible Belt a practicing witch would be welcomed with open arms. Do you agree with that?
Oh, most definitely. I had recently seen a study that was done, and Connecticut is like one of the 50 states that don't. Well, I should say, they had done what states are the most and least religious, and Connecticut was one of the 10 that were in the grouping of least religious. So that, and this is going in, when they're saying religious, is more of the Catholic religion or the, things of that nature where they're church going all the time, things of that nature, not those that practice at home, but more of those that actually attend a actual building to practice.
Do you actually attend any churches at all?
We have one church it's in Bristol on the Burlington line, and that's the Church of Eternal Light, and so they actually have a place to go. I haven't been to their, although I do help support them. I will share their events when I know of them. Some of their people do come to Cauldron's Flame, and they will get things there. There's other groups as well, that organizations that will hold rituals. I hold rituals at my location so that it's open, anyone can come, and I post when they're available on Facebook all the time, and so that people will come there and be able to go to a ritual if they want to do it as a group. Others just like to do it single. They don't want to go out in a group. But I also belong to a group of ladies that we also get together at the Sabbaths and will hold rituals at each other's homes.
Now, what role does, say, Muhammad or Jesus play in your religious thinking? We
believe that Jesus does exist, or did exist, and that he did walk this earth. There's actual physical proof that he actually existed. We believe that he is one of the children of God, but we don't believe he was the only one. We believe all of us are children of the God and Goddess. We just believe that he happened to be one that was what we considered born old. That means that all his lifetimes and his connection to the divine wasn't shielded at all. He was able to actively communicate with the divine. A lot of us witches don't have that shield or that veil, we call it, in place, or we have the veil in place where we can't, it hides us from seeing and communicating openly. But we believe that Jesus was able to openly communicate, and that's where the difference lies. However, we don't believe he was the only one that was able to do that. There are others that have been able to communicate directly with the divine. It's just not as openly known about.
Now, who is the divine?
The divine is what we will call the goddess or God, instead of just calling it, a goddess. Sometimes we'll just say divine, and that's still saying the ultimate power. Where the religion, or where we all originated from, the goddess, the God. We just group it as the divine as one term.
I see. Now, in your practice, you say you have people come in and they can sit down and you can worship together, if you will.
Right.
Right. Do you ever turn anyone away because of their religious beliefs?
No, I've had actual Christians attend some of the ceremonies just to see at what we actually do. They are there. They are welcome. I don't turn anyone away. It's an open forum. This way here, they can all participate and all see what we have.
Wow. Well, you know, this is part one of part two, and we're going to get to the spell book and the tarot cards and all of that in part two. Please don't go anywhere. Stay right there. That's all the time we have for tonight's show. My thanks to my guest, Phoenix Moon. Everybody has a story. What's yours? Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, good night.